everybody, and welcome to this evening's Northwestern student panel. Thank you all for sharing your Wednesday evenings with us. We're going to start a little bit with a panelist introduction, and so we're just going to kind of round robin it and send it around. And then after that, I will tell you a little bit about Northwestern, what the information you would get when you came to campus if we could do that, and then we'll answer any and all questions you have. So make sure you're putting those in the chat function below. So I'll start off our introduction. Hello, my name is Simone. I am currently a grad counselor at the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. I was recently a graduate of Northwestern. I studied anthropology, environmental policy, and sustainability as an undergrad. And I love Northwestern so much that I decided to stick around a little bit, and I will be pursuing my master's in sustainability in McCormick next year. And while I was an undergrad, I was involved in the club figure skating team and in research. I'm going to send it to Emma next. Emma, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Oh my gosh. My name is Emma. I am a rising fourth year theater major from New York City. And when I'm not busy in class or working in the admissions office, you can find me as one of the producers of the 78th Annual Dolphin Show, which is the largest student-produced musical in the United States. And I'll pass it to Chris.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris. I'm from Houston, Texas, as well as St. Louis, Missouri. I actually just graduated from Northwestern a couple months ago. I studied social policy in the School of Education and Social Policy, and something I was really involved in while I was a student was Northwestern's club triathlon team. That's all from me. I'm going to pass it on to Kandise.
Hi there, folks. My name is Kandise LeBlanc. If I'm vertical on your screen, it's because my computer's in the shop, so I'm on to you on my phone. I'm originally from Long Beach, California, and like Chris, I'm also a recent graduate of Northwestern. I graduated from the College of Arts and Sciences with a Bachelor of Arts in Creative Writing, and from our Beaton School of Music with a Bachelor of Music in Voice Performance and Opera. So I was on the dual degree track. And I did a lot of things, but outside of my work with the admissions office, I was really a part of our ever-thriving a cappella community. I was a part of a co-ed a cappella group known as the X Factors, and we got to perform every single quarter. With that, I'll pass it over to Elam.
Hello, everybody. My name is Elam Blackwell. I am a rising third year from Sugar Land, Texas. I'm studying both physics and theater as a double major here. And when I'm not being on virtual panels, you can sometimes find me in the Dearborn Observatory on campus, operating what used to be the world's largest telescope. And with that, I will pass it over to Sanath.
All right. My name is Sanath. I'm a rising third year from Oakland, California. I am majoring in computer science within the McCormick School of Engineering. In addition, I'm pursuing a minor in psychology and a certificate in managerial analytics through the Kellogg Business School. When I'm not doing these online information sessions, I am the electrical lead of NASA Student Launch, which competes annually in a competition held by NASA where we shoot a model rocket up into the air and then deploy some sort of robot once it comes back down. And with that, I think it's back to you, Simone.
Thank you guys so much. I am so excited to be joined by these wonderful panelists. I think we're going to have a really great panel today, but just keep asking your questions down below. So to start and maybe inspire some additional questions, I want to tell you a little bit about Northwestern. So first, let me situate us in our lovely location of Evanston, Illinois. We really are fortunate to have the trifecta of locations. We have a beautiful college campus. It's about 1 mile long, which I promise you is very great in those winter months when you have to get from one end of campus to the other in 10 minutes. And it's beautiful. On one side, Lake Michigan goes along our campus, but beyond that, we have the lovely community of Evanston. It does have that true college town feel, connections to the community, and I think it's a great place to be in college. The atmosphere on game days is just unparalleled, and even some of the Evanston businesses will give discounts for your Northwestern wildcard or your ID. And to finish off our trifecta is Chicago. Now, some may say I'm biased. I am from the city originally, but I think it's a wonderful location to have so near to our campus. Students can really engage with Chicago, whether it's for internships and research, or just to go see a beautiful play, maybe catch a Bulls game. Northwestern also does a really great job of engaging with the Chicago community. We have a really cool program called Chicago Field Studies, where students can take internships during the school year for course credit in Chicago and Evanston. So Northwestern students are really allowed to take advantage of our wonderful campus, our incredible college town, and the metropolitan that is Chicago. Now, something that is just as unique as our location is our academic structure. So I don't know how familiar you all are with the quarter system. It was something that I was not necessarily familiar with before coming to Northwestern, but I promise you I have ended up loving it. So to break it down a little bit, there are 4 quarters in our traditional academic year. We have fall, winter, spring, and summer. Students do not usually take classes during summer. Some will take an internship, some will just go home and watch Netflix. But those 3 academic quarters, people do tend to be taking classes on campus. You take an average of 4 classes a quarter, which looks to be about 12 classes a year. Compare that to a semester school that you might be more familiar with, where you take about 5 classes a semester and 10 classes a year. So those 2 extra classes a year can really allow you to explore maybe a new passion, just find something for fun, or pick up an additional major, minor, or certificate just because you have the time to do so. So let's talk a little bit about that academic flexibility here at Northwestern. A lot of that comes from our 6-school model. So let's just go through those 6 schools really quickly, starting with our Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences. It is the largest college at our undergraduate school of Northwestern. It's a liberal arts education. You have everything from psychology to English and creative writing and biology, everything in between. Next is our McCormick School of Engineering, which goes and likes to use the term whole brain engineering, meaning you really get to use that critical analytical side, but also that creative side. That's a great question to ask Sanath about later, because the whole brain engineering concept is something that I love hearing people talk about. Next, we have our School of Communications, with a few of our panelists actually being in the School of Communications. And that has everything from our theater majors to radio, television, and film. And it's a really, really cool school that has produced some of our most famous alumni. Additionally, we have our Beanan School of Music, which Kandise was a part of as an undergraduate student here at Northwestern. You do have that conservatory style education, but you also get exposure to that liberal arts education that Northwestern can offer you. Next, we have CESP, School of Education and Social Policy, the smallest but mightiest school. It is the most transferred into school, with majors like education, human psychological services, and it's a really, really cool school. I always say if I did Northwestern again as an undergrad, I would be in our School of Education and Social Policy, but that's something to ask Chris about a little bit later. And finally, we have our Medill School of Journalism, Media, and Integrative Marketing, the longest name for the smallest school, just one major, journalism. And like I said, with our School of Comm, we also have some really, really famous alumni coming out of there who have done some amazing work and still connect with the undergraduates who are there today. Please make sure that you're dropping in questions about all of these things, because I don't have the time to go into everything that I want to in this little information session, but I promise you we can answer any questions you may have. But I want to take a moment to talk about admissions and financial aid before we go into the Q&A part. So let's dive right in. We have 2 dates in terms of applications. Early decision is November 1st, and regular decision is January 3rd this year. Early decision is a binding agreement for people who are sure that they want to come to Northwestern. And that says if you are admitted via early decision, you will attend Northwestern. If that sounds like too much for you and you're not sure that you were born to be Wildcat quite yet, you can apply through regular decision, and you'll receive your admissions decision by April 1st. In either case, we accept the common application or the coalition application. We use a holistic review of your application when we're reading them, which really means that we consider every context and every part of your application. So the materials that we're looking for in an application are first, your high school transcript to see what classes you're taking, if you're challenging yourself, if you're taking the classes that are most rigorous but also available to you. Next, we look for a school report. So this is where the contextualization of your application comes into place. Your school will send us a report so we understand what classes were offered, if you had APs available to you, average GPAs at your high school, and so forth. Next, we look at your essays. The common application and the coalition application have a general essay that you send to every school, and our application has a Northwestern specific essay, our Why Northwestern. You have 350 words to answer that question. Why do you want to be at Northwestern? These essays are a great opportunity to use your voice and let us hear directly from you. I would also like to take a moment to make note that in light of this global pandemic, you will have the space on your common application or coalition application to discuss if this in any way impacted your ability to take an internship or your financial aid. You're allowed to talk about that on your application because we understand that this is a very difficult time. In terms of the application materials, 2 last things. 1, 2 letters of recommendation, one from a high school counselor and one from a core subject teacher. It's important that you ask teachers who truly know you. I know that when I was in high school, I just wanted the best teacher, the most popular teacher, but pick the teachers who really know you and you really stand out to. And finally, it is important to note we are test optional this year, so we will not be requiring any test scores. However, normally we accept either the ACT or the SAT as part of your application. Another important aspect to applying to Northwestern is financial aid. We have a very comprehensive website and a really wonderful financial aid team. Please contact them with any questions. You can just look up Northwestern Financial Aid Office. But we are very fortunate that Northwestern, we are dedicated to meeting 100% of demonstrated financial need, entirely loan-free, and not many undergraduate institutions can say that. When you are applying, you fill out the free application for federal student aid and the CSS profile, and you'll receive an estimated family contribution or an EFC. This financial aid package will be your cost of attendance minus your estimated family contribution, and the rest of that will be entirely made up of grants, scholarships, and the occasional work study. For domestic students, we are need blind, which means we will not take into account your estimated family contribution when reviewing your application. Our admissions office and our financial aid office are entirely separate. If you're curious about what you might be expected to contribute to your college education, please check out our financial aid calculator on our financial aid website. Now that I have talked at you for 10 minutes, we've talked a little bit about Northwestern generally, but we want to spend the rest of our time answering your specific questions. So if you have any questions about what I just mentioned or anything else, drop them in the chat below. But first, I want to start by going through and just talking about how unique Northwestern is. So we're just going to round robin our favorite Northwestern traditions. And Sanath, do you want to take that away?
Yeah, sure thing. For me, it's got to be Armadillo Day, known to the students as Dillo Day, which is put on by the student organization called Mayfest. Dillo Day is the largest student-run music festival in the country, which happens every spring. We've had artists in the past such as A$AP Ferg, Kendrick Lamar, Chance the Rapper, really crazy names that are, it's really incredible that we get to have those artists come to our school and perform. And, you know, I'm from California. I'm a bit of a snob when it comes to outdoors. I didn't think the Midwest would be pretty. Springtime on Northwestern's Lakeville, which is sort of this like, not really a quad, but sort of like pushed out into the lake in springtime, is just gorgeous. It's probably my favorite part about campus. And Dillo Day is like the most amount of fun you'll have during the year, and it was an absolute blast. It's really too bad that it got canceled this year, but we had fun online doing a virtual Dillo Day, and you know, fingers crossed that we have it back for next year. It's far and away my favorite student tradition at Northwestern. Emma, do you want to take it away?
Heck yeah, I want to take it away. My favorite campus tradition is definitely the march through the arch. So on your very first day of on campus, you will be with your peer advising group, which is a group either that you share a class with or that you share a major with, depending on your school. And all of you together with the entire freshman class and transfers will march through our very famous Weber Arch, which if you've seen any of our brochures, you definitely know what I'm talking about when I talk about the arch. It is iconic. But you all march through the arch, and there are students cheering you on the sidelines, and your parents are waving and cheering you on as well, and families. And it's just a really exciting way to be welcomed into Northwestern. And then on your last day at Northwestern, you'll march back through the arch when you graduate with your entire class to signify your entrance into the real world. And I just think it's a great way to come together for the very first time and really feel like you're a part of the community. Elam, do you want to take it?
Sure, yeah. So my favorite tradition is a little weird. We have this thing known as the Primal Scream, which is basically on the Sunday before every single finals week. We all get together as an entire community and scream as loud as we can at the exact same time. This does two things. One, it relieves stress before finals week, which is much needed every finals week. But two, it also freaks out all of the Evanston residents, which I think is hilarious every single time. But yeah, it's a really great way to come together, and like a weird but very specific way that Northwestern students bond over one of our traditions. Chris, do you want to take it away?
Yeah. So I think my favorite tradition has to be the Wildcat Dash. It's this thing that all new students do with their peer advisors, where at the first home football game where all the students are back on campus, the new students have this barbecue that happens in the beginning, and there's a lot of great food and usually like inflatables and free stuff. And then right before kickoff, all of the new students run across the field, and it is the most anxiety-inducing thing because everyone's running really fast, but also it's really cool because it's broadcasted along with the game. So when I did it, my mom called and was like, "I saw you running across the screen," even though she probably didn't see me exactly. It was just really cool. I think Kandise, are you the last one?
It is me. For me, I'm gonna have to go with painting the rock. And so the rock has this whole long story behind it, and it's one of the quintessential parts that you see during your tour, but pretty much it's this huge slab of rock that used to be a fountain that was given by an outgoing class in the 50s. During the 60s, it actually froze over because someone forgot to turn off the pipe, so it rendered it completely useless. But a group of first-year students decided, you know what, we're going to paint the rock. And from there, the tradition has been born. There's only two rules behind painting the rock. One, you have to guard it for 24 hours. Yes, so 24 hours. And then two, you must paint it under the cover of darkness like those first-year students did it way back when. For me, I've guarded the rock now 3 times for different events. And so students will guard the rock and paint the rock maybe for an upcoming a cappella performance like I've done, maybe for a philanthropic event, or maybe for a social justice cause that they care about. There have been breakups and marriage proposals all on the rock. And if you're really interested in finding more about the rock, we actually have a live stream camera of the rock. So if you ever just want to watch people walking by the rock or see what's on there today, you can totally check that out.
Thank you guys so much. I feel like that really gave you guys an idea, hopefully, of just how many things there are at Northwestern to get involved in. So we are getting a ton of questions about student life on campus. So Emma, I'm going to send you the first question. How would you describe the culture on campus? Is it more competitive or more collaborative?
I love that question. I would say that we definitely have a collaborative environment at Northwestern because we all do a bunch of different things, and you're always surrounded by people who are doing something completely different than you. So we're all kind of in our own lanes in that way. So I wouldn't say we're competitive with each other, but I think we like to challenge ourselves at Northwestern. So we like to take on different projects and step out of our comfort zones here. So if that sounds like you, then that's awesome. Yeah, and there are a ton of different things that you can be a part of on Northwestern's campus. I'm sure somebody will talk about student groups a little bit later. It might be me, who's to say? But, but there are a ton of organizations, over 400 organizations that you can join if you want to try something new, or if you know you love something and want to continue it on campus, we have it for you. And those are great areas to push yourself.
Thank you. Speaking of life outside of the classroom, Kandise, could you talk a little bit about the social life at Northwestern, what you can do on the weekends for fun?
Definitely. I think a good way of describing that is kind of talking about what I would do on an average weekend. And I think that also depends on the time of year. So on a Friday night, I had a class that got out at 6:20 p.m., which definitely affected how my Friday nights would go. But it was a small ensemble class. So we would all go get dinner together, whether in the dining hall or in the local Evanston community. And then we also have over 80 productions, the actual productions that happen every single year. And so I usually would go to maybe support a friend that's in a theater show that day. And then for the following day, if it's fall, I'm definitely the person, I always make sure to go out to all the football games. And so it's a great way to just kind of start your weekend. And then maybe after that, going back to the library, hitting the books, doing some studying. And then that Saturday night, probably watching another theater show for another friend, or maybe being in a show of my own, since I'm also part of the theatrical arts. And then for Sundays are kind of your lazy day that you can do whatever you want with it. So whether it's, volunteering in the morning, maybe it's waking up a little bit later in the day, or catching up on sleep. Honestly, there's a lot of things that are going on, not just in Chicago, because of course it's a big city. There's always something amazing going on in Chicago, but there's also a lot of great things happening in the Evanston community and on Northwestern's campus, so that whether you're looking to take a longer bus ride or just go walk away from your dorm, there's going to be something going on.
That's such a fantastic answer. I think that as a first year student, I was so surprised by how much was going on every weekend. And I think that that was my biggest first year regret, or the thing that I would give myself advice on would be go to more things. Like there's just so many options of things to do on the weekends, like so many different theater productions that I wish I had gone to. But we now have a question specifically for Chris. So get ready. Details about the triathlon club. Tell us all about it.
Oh my gosh. I have to be honest, I wanted to join triathlon club my first year and was too scared because I played sports in high school, but I played basketball and I was on my high school's color guard team. So that wasn't a lot of running, biking, or swimming. So I was nervous that I wouldn't be good enough to join. And then I just put it off for 2 years. In the junior year, I had friends who were like, you should just join. And I did it. And it was one of the most welcoming communities I have ever been in. They truly do have a spot for everyone. One of my friends, she didn't know how to swim before joining, and she joined, and we have coaches come in, and one of the coaches actually taught her how to swim. And it's just this really fun thing where you don't have to go to practice, but it is strongly encouraged. And Northwestern actually started hosting a mini indoor triathlon this year that they hope to do moving forward. And then also they help sponsor travel to other schools to do their triathlon. So it's a really fun experience. It's like a family. We all work out together. Even with everything happening with COVID, we still have our professional coach sending us our workouts, and people have been getting together in different cities to do more socially distant things. So it's a really cool experience. They also have team bikes. So I want to say it's probably one of the most accessible club sports you can do. And it's also just really fun. I literally tell everyone I meet, oh my gosh, you should join triathlon club. Everyone who's speaking on this panel should join triathlon club because it's really cool. And we get really cool gear from the school because it's athletics.
That is so cool. I actually had a class with Chris before we left campus, and it was so fun to hear about everything she had done at practice the night before. It's my favorite part of my Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But like I just mentioned, class, I promise you, we do go to class and do things in the classroom setting. So Sanath, why don't you tell us what the most interesting class you've taken at Northwestern has been?
Right. So I'm a computer science major, but I'm going to talk about a class that's not a computer science class. And one of the great things about Northwestern is that you can take any class in the 6 undergraduate schools as long as you're an undergraduate student at Northwestern. So I took a class in environmental policy. It was Intro to Environmental Policy, which is something I've always been interested in. Outdoor recreation is sort of one of my favorite things to do. Hiking, playing sports outside, I just love it all. And this is finally my chance to really dive deep into the policy that affects climate change, conservation, just all the things that really matter to me. And even though I wasn't able to turn that out into a minor because I just couldn't graduate in 4 years on time while doing everything I wanted to, it was a super rewarding experience to just learn something that I'm passionate about, but don't necessarily want to make a career out of. I met some really interesting people that are passionate about environmental policy and decided to go on and do the minor there. And it's been awesome just keeping in touch with them, learning more about the stuff they're learning. And I've also connected with the professor who's does some really cool research in the field, and I've learned more through that. So that's been an amazing class to take.
Awesome. And I know that someone else on this panel has taken one of our more famous classes here at Northwestern. Candace, can you tell us a little bit about Marriage 101?
Boy, can I. So Marriage 101, its full title is Marriage 101, Building Loving and Lasting Relationships. And this course is it's capped off at 190 students. The professor, Dr. Solomon, who is a world-renowned marriage counselor and therapist, actually allowed other people to just sit in on the class. So we were just like all bunkered down, like probably over like 250 people in this this room, because people just wanted to like sit in the aisles to listen to what she had to say. And of course, it's all about conflict resolution. So not just with a romantic partner, but also maybe with your friends, or if you had 3 roommates at the time, like I did, or also in a career setting. And what's great is that we're able to take something that could be really taboo and speaking about it in a class setting. And as I mentioned, that this class was 190 students, which is on the way larger end. That's only 2% of courses have 20 or more than 100 students. And we had a separate discussion section. So we would have this larger lecture style on Tuesdays, and then on Thursdays would be led by 2 teachers assistants or TAs. And my group was 12 students. And so what was great is that we could listen to this lecture, figuring all about like how to be vulnerable, how to eliminate shame cycles and things like that, and being able to work on it on a one-on-one level, and also just being able to engage in this work. And it was a really great course. At the end of the course, my discussion section, we all went to Five and Dime, which is a local restaurant that has a rooftop eating area, and we all ate there at the end of our spring quarter. And it was a really great way to just kind of acknowledge all the bonding that we had done over the past 10 weeks.
That is a class that I wish I had gotten to take as an undergrad, but it is definitely one of our most popular classes. But that's a class anyone can take, and Sanath took a class outside of his major. But let's talk a little bit more about some specific programs here at Northwestern. So Elam, can you tell us, what is being a theater major at Northwestern like? Are they able to do things on campus? Can they act? Can they design? Or are they just running around scared?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I'm both a physics and a theater double major, and I am on track to graduate in 4 years. So that kind of answers your question for you a little bit, that I am able to do both of them and still, have a fulfilling Northwestern experience. But besides that, I've been in at least one show every quarter here at Northwestern, whether that be on stage or backstage doing lighting design, or helping my friend by assistant directing, different things like that. The really great thing about Northwestern is how many shows are produced. So we produce over 80 shows a year between musical theater, dance shows, and straight acting plays, which, if you're doing the math, that's more than one show every single week, probably 2 during the school year, which means that there is a ton of opportunities, and not a single show is only for theater majors. So if you're interested in doing theater, you can design, you can act, you can sing, produce, direct, anything that you're really interested in. There's definitely a spot for you at Northwestern.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Emma, did you have anything you wanted to add about your experience as a theater major who's maybe not doing a second major?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just echo what Elam said. You do not have to be in any arts major to be involved in the arts on campus. Some of my favorite people that I've met on campus, we met because we did a show together. And they, weren't theater majors, so we had the best time working on student theater together. All auditions, regardless of whether it's a department show or a student theater show, are open to everyone. I think something that's really special about Northwestern Theater is that all of our shows are produced and created entirely by students. So what that means is that, like Elam said, you could be a lighting designer, you can be a producer, you can be a marketing director. There's so many different avenues that you can try. So my freshman fall, I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew I loved theater. I knew I didn't want to audition for shows that quarter. So I emailed a producer of one of the shows that was going up, and I was like, do you have any spots for me? And she said, do you want to be the stage manager? I had slim to no idea what a stage manager did, but I had absolutely the best time working on the show, had amazing student and faculty mentors, and that has been one of my main focuses at Northwestern thus far. So you can do anything. It could become the thing you love, or you do it once and you decide to try something new the next quarter. So that's what I love about theater.
Thank you guys so much. Theater is one of our more popular programs at Northwestern, but another one we get a ton of questions about is our Beeman School of Music. So Kandise, how would you describe the schedule in Beeman, especially as a dual degree or maybe double major?
Sure thing. And I think the first thing to point out is just to describe the difference between the double major and the dual degree. So the double major can easily be done in 4 years. And specifically, if you're interested in having a double major in Benin and another school, typically, if you're doing a performance major, Benin will be your home school. And what that just means is that as a double major, you have to do the major requirements for each of your specializations, but you only do the graduation requirements for one school. So what that looks like is that, say, maybe if you want to be a cello performance major based in Benin with a second major in mathematics, you do the graduation requirements in the Benin School of Music, such as RLs, and you only have to do your major requirements in the College of Arts and Sciences. Versus in my case, for the dual degree, it can very easily be done in 5 years. It's not like your schedule is jam-packed every single moment. Just from my personal experience, I studied abroad during my fifth year fall. I learned 2 languages. I took roughly 7 courses, just not for credit, just solely because I wanted to take them, and actually could have graduated a quarter early if I so desired. But the biggest difference with the dual degree is that you end up with 2 separate pieces of paper when you graduate. And but that you have to do the graduation requirements for both of your schools. So in addition, in my case of doing the graduation requirements of the Benin School of Music, also in the College of Arts and Sciences, I had to do the graduation requirements as first year seminars and the language requirement. I think overall in trying to balance the two, I think the double major is very easy. I think the only thing that you should be cognizant of doing the dual degree is that a lot of your extracurriculars will be built into your schedule. So another thing that I was really a part of was our choral community at Northwestern. I was a part of it has a really long name, but a short initialism. It's the Benin Contemporary Early Vocal Music Ensemble, or BCE for short. And that was a 4-credit class that was built into my curriculum. So even though I was in another class, it was also something that I would have been doing whether or not I had to for my major. And so I think that's something that for the music majors and performance majors, at least, we're all required to be be in ensembles for our degree. And so I think even though we may be taking more classes, there are also things that we would have been partaking in either way.
Awesome. Thank you, Candice. As you can tell, Benin really has some really cool opportunities for its undergraduate students, but I promise it's not the only one of our 6 schools that has these unique opportunities. Elam, could you tell us a little bit, as a physics major, what are some cool science classes at Northwestern or some of the more popular ones?
Sure. So this one is very specific to me, but I think it's one of the coolest classes I've ever heard of. A few quarters ago, I was taking my acting class, and so I couldn't take this class, but I had a few friends that did. And the class was, how does quantum mechanics impact everyday life, specifically through performances? Which was like, if there was ever a class that was more directly suited to me, I don't know what it could have been. I was super disappointed that I couldn't take it because it didn't fit in my schedule. But I think that it's really hard to say, like, what's the fun science class at Northwestern? Because there are a bunch. Because every single quarter, there's something new that pops up that will probably never come back again. But it will, be one of the best classes you've ever taken in your life. My roommate this year, as one of his first year classes, took a math class about how to solve a Rubik's Cube and like how that could relate to like combinatorics and whatnot in mathematics, which I still don't understand. But it was really, really cool, like watching him work on through all these like mathematical papers and whatnot to solve a Rubik's Cube, which was really awesome. So yeah, I would say there are a lot of really popular science classes. Naming just one, I think, would be doing a disservice to the rest of them, but you'll certainly find something really interesting and cool if you come to Northwestern for science or math.
And I want to echo that with a quick little story of my own. I was an anthropology major, and I got to take forensic anthropology with one of my favorite professors on campus. And I loved the show Bones. I think it's a fun show. We actually got to watch it for class and evaluate it for accuracy. So I got to watch TV for part of my class, and I actually learned a lot, I promise you. It was one of the best classes I've ever taken. But I want to change it up a little bit and take a quick segue into our location. Chris, how often do you get down into the city as a Northwestern student? I think we're having some technical difficulties. So Sanath, I'll ask you, and then Chris, when you get the chance, I'd love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, sure thing. Going to Chicago a little bit less right now, thanks to the global pandemic. But I would say not during the winter quarters because it's a little bit cold. I don't like spending time outside. I go to Chicago about once or twice a month, I would say, on the weekends. I think someone was talking a little bit earlier about what you can do on the weekends. Chicago is a great global city with tons of things to do. Northwestern students get free admission to the Art Institute, which is this like huge art museum. If you've never been to it, it's a must go. I'm in love with the Field Museum. I want to be there all the time. I think the dinosaur bones are beyond cool. I mean, Chicago's got so much good food, great museums, great things to go and hang out and just like go with your friends and explore. It's one of my favorite things to do. I wish I can do it a little bit more often. You know, honestly, I probably will, thanks to all the time that's been taken away from me. So I think, yeah, 1 to 2 times a month, but hoping for more.
I think that's a pretty solidly true for most Northwestern students. What I think is really cool is that Northwestern will pay for you to do a lot of cool Chicago things. As part of my residential life experience, I got to go to a Bulls game. I got to go to a few Steppenwolf productions, and that was a really fun experience for me. And additionally, we have an inter-campus shuttle, which is specifically for Northwestern students. You show your wild card or your Northwestern ID, and it takes you all the way down to our medical and law school campus, which is coincidentally right off Mag Mile, a very popular Chicago location. But sometimes there's even Wi-Fi on the bus. It's a really great option for getting downtown into Chicago. But let's move back to campus a little bit and talk about advising. Emma, can you talk to us about the advising and support systems that Northwestern students have at their disposal?
Absolutely. So from your very first day on campus, you will have an academic advisor for you. And this person will help you guide you through all of your degree requirements, your classes, but also they just want to hear how you're doing. I'm personally very close with my academic advisor, who is in my major. We talk a couple of times a quarter just to catch up and just to see how I'm doing in classes. Beyond that, I think something that's really special about Northwestern is the peer advising system. When you come for orientation, you'll be paired with a peer advisor in a group of 10 to 15 students. And this person is an older student who will take you through Wildcat Welcome, which is our orientation experience, and they'll tell you about, they'll have dialogues about, you know, issues that you might occur at Northwestern. They'll help you with class registration, but also they'll just help you get to know new people and show you around campus. Something else that's awesome about student advising is we have a bunch of different activities and clubs for students who want to advise other students. For example, our sexual health and peer education SHAPE group is a really amazing resource if you ever just want to talk to somebody. They are there to help you navigate your Northwestern experience as well. There are a ton of extracurriculars like that.
Awesome. And another part of our advising program and opportunities is the pre-professional side of advising as well. Kandise, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Definitely. And so I just want to preface it that I was a creative writing and voice major, and neither of those are inherently pre-professional. But what's really great is that most of the pre-professional tracks that we have at Northwestern aren't actually majors or minors. So it doesn't matter what your actual major is, you can still be on that track. Like one of my best friends on this earth, Ian, who graduated a year before me, he was on the pre-law track. And so with that, as soon as he declared that track, it's as simple as just signing up for the listserv email. He was automatically paired up with an advisor, making sure that he was getting proper instructions of taking the exams he wanted, also being able to connect with various Northwestern undergraduate alumni that have gone to various different grad schools, and also being able to have the firsthand experience of, if let's say there's a prominent speaker in that field, being able to get the first information about when they're performing, the performer, when they're speaking. And that can be the same, not necessarily on the pre-law track, but also on the pre-medicinal track. For consulting, here at Northwestern, we don't necessarily have a business major. And I think what's great about that is that Northwestern acknowledges that a lot of people who are in a pre-business or pre-consulting track, that you have to being able to talk about the things that you're selling, and also just being able to be a well-rounded individual so that you're able to apply those things to a business field. And so with that, there's lots of different ways that students do that, whether it's having their econ advisors, having our business institutions programs minor, and getting that sort of specific pre-professional advising, or even more normal ways of routes of doing that. A good friend of mine actually is going to be consulting for Deloitte, and he was a philosophy major. So there's really different ways that you're able to find accessibility on these pre-professional tracks.
Awesome. That is so great to hear. Another really popular resource that Northwestern students use is our Office of Undergraduate Research. So I would love to talk a little bit about research on campus. Sanath, would you mind telling us a little bit about your research experience or your friend's research experience? Oh, I think Sanath is a little frozen. So if he comes back, I'd love to hear from him, but I can talk a little bit about mine really quickly. So I went into my Office of Undergraduate Research as a first-year student and told them I wanted to work with fish, and they didn't even bat an eye. They found me a position at an neurobiology lab tracking fluorescent proteins in zebrafish to look at spinal regeneration. And that had nothing to do with my major or minor. I was just super interested in it. I also have a friend named Erica who recently graduated with me, but as an undergrad, she worked with her favorite professor to digitize and restore Latinx poetry from the Chicagoland areas. The research is not just STEM, but Sanath, do you want to tell us about your research experience at Northwestern?
Sure. I'm sorry if I caused any technical difficulties. Yeah, so research at Northwestern can kind of go one of two ways. Number one, through the Office of Undergraduate Research. Every quarter, including the summer, the Office of Undergraduate Research will post sort of like listings for research opportunities. And these are essentially professors that are like, hey, the office, I think I could use an undergrad in my lab to perform some research. Can you just post this on your website? And it's a really great, accessible way to find research, especially if you're a first year and sort of just getting your bearings on campus. The way I went about finding research was by contacting a professor directly. So I went to go see a talk by one of her postdocs, Stevie Chancellor, and she gave a talk about how she was researching how people suffering from opioid addiction recover and how she was analyzing that using machine learning techniques on Reddit data, which I thought was insanely cool. So I went up to her after the talk. I was like, hey, I'm really interested. Can we set up a time to talk about this research and maybe can I jump on? And she said, yeah, absolutely. Fast forward like 3 quarters now, and I'm still doing research with Stevie. It's been a fantastic experience. We're looking to get published fairly soon, which has been a very exciting experience. So I have friends researching, it's sort of like traditional STEM fields like myself, but I also have friends doing cool stuff in history and other non-traditionally STEM fields. And it's important to know that the Office of Undergraduate Research will support you in both categories.
That's so great to hear. And I think that I can echo that and say my experiences and that of my friends have been very similar. Now, Chris, I think she's back with us and her audio is working. But Elam earlier mentioned the primal scream as a way to relieve our stress, but with a quarter system and being at Northwestern, how do students relieve stress and what services does Northwestern offer to help students with that?
That's a great question, which I feel like it took me 4 years to fully learn, but now I have so many resources that I can talk about. So it's no new news that Northwestern students can get a little stressed when it comes to academic life, just because Northwestern is a rigorous institution. But there are so many ways in which students can sort of reduce that stress, whether it be through time management skills that I know for me, my peer advisor, my first year taught my group a lot of. And there are also other ways, like a lot of students get involved with meditation. Northwestern students get a free Calm account, which is this app that basically is literally for de-stressing self-care, which I think is really cool because it shows that the school cares. But then there's also like different stress relief things that happen during specific times of year. So during reading week, which is a week for, it's not for every school, mainly just Weinberg, where they don't have classes, but it's that week leading up to finals week. There's a lot of programming that's put on through Norris, the University Center, the libraries, as well as student affairs and the student organizations office. And that's really cool because usually it involves a lot of free food and free coffee. And it's good because also a lot of people do spend a lot of time in the library and the University Center during those times. But then there are also a lot of ways for students to just get away from
doing schoolwork and just have fun and engage in like physical activities, whether it be through intramural sports. Also, all students have access to the campus athletic and recreation facilities. So during the warmer months, that includes the beach, but that also includes access to like basketball, tennis courts, a track, which will be reopening safely for this upcoming year. So there are a lot of little ways that students do manage their stress. I think the most important thing to remember is that even though classes can get hard, it's always, they always try to remind us that we have to take care of ourselves first. And part of that is by giving us unlimited access to dining halls when you live on campus so that you can eat, and having that gym, and also just like taking that time. And also I think something that's really cool, so if you're taking one of those bigger classes like micro or macroeconomics, or I think they have it for math and chemistry classes. I'm not really sure. I was not really involved with the STEM stuff, but they have peer support where they have other students who do tutoring sessions that can be added as like a credit on your Caesar account. So it like looks like a class, but it's just a time for students to go and get help on different things. And I think that's also really cool, especially when you're stressed about schoolwork and stuff. Yeah, and another thing I really want to touch on is Happiness Club. Like Chris said, sometimes you just have to think about other things. So Happiness Club is one of our 500 plus student organizations, and they have some really fun activities throughout the year to kind of take people's mind off of maybe the test that they're studying for a few minutes, whether it's bringing really, really cute dogs and mini horses to Norris in the library, or there was a scavenger hunt on the lake field during Easter time. I actually won a free Happiness Club t-shirt. They do really great things on campus, free hugs and things like that when there's not a pandemic. Something that definitely could add to your stress is the worry of not getting a class, especially when you really, really want to take a certain class. So Elam, could you talk about how easy it is to get classes you want? Do classes tend to fill up quickly? What's that like?
Yeah, so the simple short answer is no, they don't. The longer explanation is that basically all 80% or more, depending on the year, of Northwestern classes have 20 students or less, which means that many classes that you'll be in are super small, which means that there's just a lot of classes to take. And so there's not a whole lot of classes that like everybody takes because there's something for everybody. And so, yeah, I have only twice tried to take a class that I wasn't able to take. And one of them was this quarter with a lab, which understandably had to have a very small cap size with COVID going on. But yeah, and the other great thing is that you have pre-registration for your own major classes. So if you are, for me, a physics major, and you really, really need to get into that one physics class, you're basically guaranteed to, because you get to sign up for those important physics classes for your major before any other students get to. So yeah, that's the long and short of it. I've taken now, I think, around 30 classes, and again, I've only had to have my second option for 2 of them. So it's a pretty good system.
I can also say that that was my experience as an undergrad as well. So that is a good thing to hear. That is universal at Northwestern. So we are nearing the end of our time together on this panel this evening. But before we leave, I do want to all talk about why Northwestern. Why did we choose to come to Northwestern? So I'll kick us off really quickly. I obviously am choosing to stay here for another year, so I must have liked it a lot. I'm from Chicago originally, and Northwestern was the first school I ever saw. And I just kept comparing every school to Northwestern because everyone I had met on campus was the kind of person I wanted to be in class with, hang out with, learn from, and learn about. And I think that that was just true throughout my academic experience. Both the professors, faculty, and staff, and the students are really the reason why I stay at Northwestern, and it's the reason I kept coming back. Kandise, do you want to take the next one?
Yep, I know for me, I was on the exact opposite end of the knowledge of Northwestern. Coming from Southern California, I assumed that it was going to be in the Washington State, Oregon area. And then I found out it was in the Midwest, and I thought, oh my goodness, what is the Midwest? And then I realized that there was a lake that ran along the campus. So I said, okay, let me give this another shot. And I knew since probably my first year of high school that I wanted to study both creative writing and opera. And Northwestern was one of the few schools that even offered those two specializations as a thing to major in. And with Northwestern already having the dual degree program previously established, I never felt like I had to trailblaze for my own academic desires, or I would have to sacrifice one of my academic desires for another hobby or just an extracurricular. And one thing that has made me just really love Northwestern is the idea of academic exploration that I didn't even really know coming into Northwestern. I heard from some other schools that if you go into a class that's not in your major, that they would say something along the lines of, why are you here? Why are you taking this class? But my experience at Northwestern has been completely the opposite. I remember I took a classical mythology class truly just for fun because I had really loved classical mythology in high school. And my professor's first questions to me weren't why was I here, but oh my goodness, you're a music major and a creative writing major. How can we use your previous expertise and apply this to a new field? And I can go on and on with that to Emma.
Amazing. So I love to split my Why Northwestern into a before and after I came to Northwestern. Much like Kandise, I was really looking for a really strong theater program with really amazing training, as proved by our many famous alums. But I also wanted to do other things with my time and be able to explore my other interests. So this phrase "and in our DNA," which is our famous catchphrase, really spoke to me at the time. What I didn't realize, though, what that meant to me when I got to campus was that I was going to surprise myself and try new things. I think Northwestern has a really, like I said before, a really wonderful environment, which we're encouraged to take risks. So that for me looked like I'd never sound designed a show before, but I did it. I'd never staged in a show before, but I did it. I took calculus because I wanted to, even though it was really hard and I had a really hard time with it. So I think that something really amazing about Northwestern is the ways in which you can surprise yourself and really challenge yourself and feel supported while you're doing it. And with that, I'll pass it to Chris.
So my Why Northwestern is actually a little different. I actually matched with Northwestern through Questbridge, which is an organization that connects high achieving, low income and first generation students to top colleges like Northwestern. There are 40 of them and I can't name them all. But I got matched, so it was a binding decision, very similar to early decision, except I had ranked a list of schools and you just get into the top one. So I didn't really have a choice. I actually ranked Northwestern as a joke because its school colors were purple and there were cats, and my high school colors were purple and they were also cats. And I knew nothing about the school. I didn't even know Evanston, Illinois was a place. So when I got there, I was surprised, but I fell in love with the school. And so I always, when I talk about my Why Northwestern, I kind of turn it into a why I stayed at Northwestern. And that's just because of all of the opportunities available to students. I hadn't really gone out of the country before, and I got to study abroad twice, and my financial aid covered that. I got to study memes and environmental impact for my senior honors thesis. I got to go see Broadway shows downtown for free that I never would have been able to go to. And it honestly has been the best 4 years. And I've had a lot of time to reflect on that now that I've graduated. So yeah, mine is definitely why I stayed at Northwestern. I think I'm gonna pass it. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember who hasn't gone. Elam, have you gone?
Yep. I'm good to go. My Why Northwestern is, I don't want to talk too long because it's very similar to the other theater and performance majors. Northwestern's really good at theater, and they're also really good at physics. And I struggled to find a school that could do both well. A lot of schools are really good at STEM, but not in the arts, or vice versa. And Northwestern really just took it away for both of them. Our physics program is super small, but really really good. There's like a 1-to-1 student to faculty ratio, which is insane. So that was really, really good. And the theater program speaks for itself with such crazy notable alumni. So that's really my Why Northwestern statement, because it's just really good at whatever they do. So yeah. Oh, I'll pass it over to Sanath. Have you gone? Great, go ahead.
I think I'm the last one here. I think Simone mentioned whole brain engineering a little bit earlier, and this is my chance to talk about it. So whole brain engineering is basically the idea that the left side of your brain is very analytical in nature, and engineering is an analytical field. While it's all important, and you'll be doing plenty of analytical-based thinking, the creative side and your right side of the brain is important as well. I think that's really cool. When I was looking at schools, Northwestern would talk a lot about this class that you won't take just once, but twice during your first year, called DTC, which is a class that will pair you with a real life client, and you can like work on something that affects them. When I was touring Northwestern, they talked about a penguin project. Basically, the penguins at the Shedd Aquarium in Chicago were slipping on the synthetic ice. And a team of Northwestern students designed like these cute little purple slippers that go onto the penguins' feet. If you're at the Shedd Aquarium, you can see them right now. And I thought that was really cool. And then they went on and talked about things like dancing for engineers, or this program that pairs you with an art student. You come up with an engineering art like thing that you put in a museum for a month or two. And I thought that was just like so cool, very refreshing compared to some other engineering programs that I was looking at. I just love the idea of being able to expand my boundaries and really push myself, because I know I like math, and that's something I can do, but pushing myself to be more creative was something that's really exciting for me, and something that I'm really happy that I get to do here. So I think Simone, it's back to you.
I think that ending on a why Northwestern is so fun, because you can really see that everyone has had a different experience as an undergrad at Northwestern, but they've all been pretty amazing. So unfortunately, that is all the time we have left for today. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any more questions about anything Northwestern, we have a great Instagram, Facebook, and this wonderful YouTube channel that this is airing on. Make sure to subscribe. If you have any questions, I guarantee it's been answered, hopefully in another one of our videos on this website or on our Northwestern admissions page. So make sure to subscribe and keep reaching out to Northwestern. Thank you so much, and go Cast.